Look, we can operate at scale. We can grow massive businesses. But you can also sit on the beach on a Monday and eat a coconut.
What does it mean to scale? When is it a good time to quit your job? And when do you jump off, leave your 9 to 5 and become an entrepreneur? Because that's part of what we are promoting, talking about becoming an author entrepreneur. What is the best way to proceed in doing that? What if you could take charge of your publishing and then leverage your book to create financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what this podcast is all about.
Hi, I'm Hennika Watkis, Porter, speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Entrepreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Tune in for inspiration, information, and innovation to write and win with books. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
Greetings, entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 69 of the Entrepreneur Secrets podcast. I'm your host, C. Ruth Taylor, and this is the program that gives you the roadmap to take charge of your publishing with stories and strategies to dominate authorpreneurship, and that's author entrepreneurship. And coming up in today's show, we are continuing the repurposing and re-airing of a very fascinating and provocative discussion that was held at the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit on day one with 3 leading Caribbean authors, and there are leading Caribbean author experts, as we call them, at the summit. That's Nerissa Golden from Montserrat, Javette Nixon from Jamaica, and Dalan Vanterpool from the British Virgin Islands. Dalan is a banker, financial educator. Javette is a serial entrepreneur, former investment banker as well. Nerissa is an award-winning entrepreneur, and they're all authors. So there were 3 books that were highlighted. Nerissa's book, Start, Grow, Thrive, Build a Business to Last. Dalan's book, No Boss, Clients Only, How to Build an Extraordinary Career and a Life of Freedom. And Javette's book, From the Margins, a Caribbean man's ode to small business and life. But that book really is about how Caribbean businesses and small business in the developing world can build global businesses. So the discussion was hosted by another author, Raquel Newman, an author of The Albino Marketer. And what you're going to hear today had to do with a question that was asked that led to just this fabulous discussion. Someone in the audience asked the question, if the books and podcasts of the panelists were geared towards assisting the authors or the audience to become entrepreneurs, and can we just quit our day jobs? The question was so fabulous, it spawned into talks about scaling. And so this episode, I'm not going to get a lot into my entrepreneurship ventures and those other things, as exciting as those are. I really want you to hear what these 3 authors and entrepreneurs had to say. How do we scale and do more as authors without becoming burnt out? And so I want you to listen, take notes, and then let me know your takeaways from this episode. Let's have a word from our sponsor, BambooSparks, and then we'll play the introduction to the summit and go right into that discussion. Trust me, get pen and paper and take note.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark today with BambooSparks, a global independent publishing services and publishing education and training business for transformation. BambooSparks will take you from manuscript to market faster than you thought possible and even manage the process for you. Check out their 3 main offerings: the Self-Publishing Spark, the Rocket Writing Spark, and their BambooSparks done-for-you management deals for authors in the Caribbean and the diaspora. Discover how BambooSparks can help you to publish and leverage your book to grow 90 feet tall at BambooSparks.com, and that's bamboo with a U.
Book publishing has many paths, and just figuring out where to go at each stage can be confusing. But with insights and guidance from author experts just like us, you can tackle the writing process competently and be assured that the goal of being a published author is within reach. Welcome to the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit, the place for Caribbean authors to shine. With each staging of our summit, leading Caribbean author experts at home and in the diaspora share their stories and strategies to win with books beyond book sales. In the process, aspiring and published authors are inspired and lives are transformed. The Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit will ensure that fewer books die in the minds of their authors, more manuscripts become published legacies, and precious lives are transformed with the turn of each page. In 2022, get ready to create, thrive, and win with books beyond book sales.
All right, so the next question I believe is from Cheryl, and this one is asking, and this is for everybody. So are the books and podcasts of our panelists geared towards assisting us with becoming entrepreneurs? So it's a 2-part. Can we quit our day jobs? I may say something about that, but hear what? Let me have our panelists answer that question for their own stuff, and then
Javette.
yes.
Yeah.
I know, right? Javette gets volunteered as tribute.
So
It's your turn.
ever to speak. Everybody who has ever heard my story know I'm Mr. Quit Your Job. So the fact is, I believe that when it comes on to your ability to affect change, to really commit and to grow, to scale, then entrepreneurship is the way to go. I see so much potential in Caribbean people and our ability to affect change. We're excellent at anything we do. And as a result of that, my own view is if you're passionate about something, if you really feel like you're in a place to transform a sector to solve a problem, then absolutely go for it. I did it. It's now going on 11 years, and I have never looked back. And I see so much of that in the Caribbean where we kind of have a little toe in, but we don't make the jump. And sometimes you can stay in a 9-to-5 environment and affect and do what you want to do. But sometimes to really get to scale, to really grow, you have to burn the bridge.
Yeah.
And just go in the direction you want to go.
I would say that scale is probably a good way to mark whether you should, one, quit, and whether you should go full time. Because you can quit your job and then go outside and you've hired yourself, but you don't have the capacity to hire other people or to really scale the thing. And so you've only changed one employer for the next one. And it's a tougher employer because it's you, so it's like, yeah. Am I going to fire myself? So you have to think, this thing that I'm going to do in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, am I going to hire more teams? Is the solution that I'm scalable? If I live on Montserrat, which has less than 5,000 people, so there are only a certain amount of people I can serve within the market for a particular project or product that I offer. So I've always have to be thinking about what's next, or where else can I sell the same service? Because there are only maybe 10, 100 people who want the particular thing I offer at that particular price point. Let me slow myself down tonight. And so you have to think about that before you decide whether you want to quit the job that you have. Is look at whether that project you have, the solution that you offer, is scalable, and is it going to be able to do something that can sustain you and sustain your team over the long term.
Nerissa, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Why would any project that you have just be built and scalable in Montserrat? Why is it not? Why is it only being built and sold in Montserrat?
No, not for me. That's not what I do. I'm saying that if I were to build a business, let's say I worked for government in Montserrat up until 2013, 2014. And then what allowed me to leave was when I recognized that I had enough clients, not just locally, but regionally, that could sustain me. Because I recognized working in the local market, only the government probably could have afforded to pay me consistently to do the work, and then you run into other issues. So I'm saying that's the same thing you have to do no matter where you are. Is think about your location, but also think about how you can leverage what you have and go further. I always tell people, the entrepreneurs at home, to use Montserrat as the database, and because it's such a good market to test a product, to see if it works, tweak it, check out what the market is saying, and then once you've resolved that, then you say, okay, here's my product. Would you like to buy it?
Yeah.
I got some comments on it. Javette, I don't know. I saw this question pop up on the screen. Before I say my comment, I don't know if, since you're the most qualified at this, if you want to just explain what scaling is for them.
All right. So scaling is using various techniques, business techniques, digital marketing techniques to grow your business from whatever place you have started it, whether it's a location or a space online, and moving it to different spaces. That's as simplified as I can do it. It's really around growth. It's how do you move into different spaces and grow your business as you move into those spaces. My own view as it relates to scaling and growth is that Caribbean people often think, oh, I'm from the Caribbean. Here is a small place. I might not necessarily be able to scale. So and for me, even if you are selling juice on a specific corner in an island somewhere in the Caribbean, you can sell that juice in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in China, in Malaysia, in Australia, in the US. And when you go into the supermarket and you see those products on the shelf, chances are it was somebody who had this idea around juice. Probably your juice even tastes better, but because of this barrier that we create for ourselves to say, oh, we can't scale, we don't necessarily burn that bridge, invest the time and energy in developing your packaging, in developing your product, and in building partnerships, in investing in your financial literacy to get to scale. If you go to Starbucks, they have these small juices that they're selling for $4 that they call concentrate, right? Now, what is different about Starbucks selling that juice than a guy in Barbados who is chopping off his cane and putting that in a bottle and giving it to you? He's giving you better quality. What Starbucks has done is created a brand for themselves, not put the Starbucks label on it, create a process to do that continuously. And as a result of that, they're able to expand and scale. For me, I want Caribbean entrepreneurs and Caribbean thinkers to realize that in many cases, when you interact with the first world, most people in the Caribbean who are at top level are far better qualified in the area of expertise than somebody in any country that you can pick out of a handbook. The difference is the ambition, the belief, the burning in the soul to say, hey, I can get there. Young people, when they go into these markets and they sit around these tables, they come to the same conclusion that Michelle Obama comes to. These guys are not that smart anyway. Just like that. So for me, I jump off at a point where it doesn't matter what you're doing in the Caribbean. Chances are you're better at it than anybody you can think of anywhere in the world, or just as good. You may have some things that you need to work on. You may need to work on packaging. You may need to work on understanding your finances. You may need to work on how do you do partnerships well, how do you build relationships. But at the end of the day, in a global environment, with a global world, with a supply chain in a global world, there's nothing that you can create from a service standpoint that cannot be scaled through the internet. And there's nothing that you can create from a product standpoint that cannot be scaled through supply chain. So are you making those linkages to ensure that scaling, that growth happens?
Right. I definitely resonate with what Javette is talking about and agree with it. From my perspective, where I sit on the should you quit your job spectrum or continuum is, yes, you can, but I think there's a way to do it more responsibly and more efficiently than Instagram is telling us. Right. I think there's a way. The way I put it in the book is this: if we're on a plane going somewhere, and you're on these long flights, you're going from New York to London, you're like, oh my God, this is taking so long. And that's how you're on a job, right? It's taking so long to become successful. So we're halfway into the flight, we're over the Atlantic Ocean, and I say to you, hey, you know what, man? This plane is taking too long. You know what you should do? You should just Steve Harvey it. You should just jump. You should just just pop the hatch, just kick it open and jump. You'd be like, no, that's crazy, right? We're halfway there in the middle of the ocean. We're going to die. I'm not prepared. I can't swim. So my thing is that, yes, you can quit your job, but I think there's ways to do it more responsibly. Why not quit your job, but milk the heck out of it to where you're leaving with a war chest of money, where you're leaving with a war chest of clients? What if you did so well at this job to where you walk out and your current employer turns into your first client, right? What if they turn into your first? What if they introduce you to the first? What if one of your clients that you have now at your job knows that you've been doing so well that they want to put venture capital into what you're doing? I'm saying, yes, you can leave, but there's a lot of stuff that we're leaving on the table if we don't milk these jobs before we go out and become an entrepreneur. And also between like doing your job and becoming an entrepreneur, there's this sweet little middle ground called a freelancer, right? That people don't want to think about. That jump from employee to entrepreneur is huge, but you can ease your way into it to where you're not just jumping to go do your own business, but you're starting small and the business is building up to the point where you didn't quit your job. The business pulled you away from the job. Like you realize that now you've matched your income, then you've doubled your monthly salary, your day job salary. And now you're like, if I were to put the 8 hours I'm doing this into my actual business, then I can really scale. But that's a different thing than being like, let me go quit and sit on the couch and go on YouTube and figure out what I'm going to do. It's two different kind of things.
Okay. Again, I want to kind of ask a question. So the premise behind, so if you're like me, you obsess over the ability to build something that is exponential.
Yeah.
If you're building something that is exponential, it's very difficult. For example, for as an adult, I have kids. I like the beach. I like to drive to Elsha. It's difficult to balance, especially depending on your job. I was head of marketing and exports market, for example, for our largest paint company in the Caribbean when I quit my job. Now, if you want to build at scale, I understand where you are, but the premise behind burning the bridge is that you have no choice but to succeed. And sometimes that is what is required to operate at scale. If you have no choice, but the burning the bridge is actually burning the boat. It was a story, and I'm going to fumble the story.
The Spartans.
Yeah, the Spartans went to invade a neighboring territory. And the general says, burn the boats because we're not going home. We're going to either die here on the beach or we're going to conquer this land. And oftentimes, if you're trying to operate at scale, if you're divided purposes. For me, I'm a marketing person. Marketing, there's no marketing job that is 40 hours and then it's done. Maybe somebody,
that's true.
maybe somebody in the public sector at 5 o'clock the job finishes. But a lot of jobs, especially these days, don't operate like that. People calling you, clients calling you. You have to work extra hours. If you really are trying to grow something to where the point where, all right, for example, I took a year off from work, 8 years into my job, went back to school, decided that I wanted to travel, and came back. And my job, my company was still alive. My company was still there. If you want to be able to do that and not be able to be just constantly on a treadmill, I am not sure. And I know that there's complexity in everything that we do. Nothing is exactly right for everybody. Sometimes there's nuances to almost everything. So when we have these conversations, I want to recognize those nuances. I absolutely believe that sometimes it's important. I created Point Global 2 years before I actually went into it full time. So I understand the space that you're advising people to occupy, and I'm 100% for it. And yes, that advice is very needed. But also, and if everybody has to evaluate them for themselves. If it's very difficult to build a business that operates outside of you, a business that operates and scales outside of you, a business that makes decisions outside of you making those decisions. And if you want to get there, it's going to be very difficult if you have divided loyalties. So I preface my question. So this is actually the question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
So sorry about that. Because I know, and audience, we have a complex topic here. What's that space? Because for me, it's important that if you really want to build something at scale, you have to jump off at some point. And you can't jump off when it's absolutely safe. Because at the end, if it's absolutely safe to jump off, you're not really taking a risk. And the risk reward ratio for businesses is real. Every business, there's a risk and there's a reward, which is why this idea of burning the bridge becomes, burning the boats becomes so important. What is that point as you see it, Dalan? Where is it that kind of jumping off point needs to take place and making that transition? What triggers that kind of thought?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I definitely want to just show appreciation for everything you said. I think just to be clear, I actually don't think we're butting heads here. I think we're actually talking. I think we're actually giving two useful sides of the coin that you need to consider, regardless of whether you're trying to stay in a job or you're planning to quit.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually the conversation we're having out loud. The conversation you need to be having with yourself. Right?
Exactly.
So I don't think we're butting heads here at all. What you need to do is go buy Nerissa's book, Javette's book, and my book, and read all three of them so you can have your brain. That's what you need to go and do. But to answer your question,
And
I think
mine
it's gonna
as
be
well.
and Raquel's as well, and take her email building course. But to answer your question, I think it's gonna be different for everybody. And I think the most important thing, or one of the most important things you said there, is that if you're planning to quit your job and you want to go and build something at scale, you want to do an entrepreneur thing, it's never going to be an ideal time. Like, even if you wait another 5 years, wait another 10, you could wait another 20 years. It's still not going to feel perfect, right? But I do think there needs to be enough of a pull there, enough of a structure to where you figured out, you've gotten proof of concept. I think you need to at least have that, right? You need to have, like you said, you had it 2 years into it before you decided to leave. You need to have at least proof of concept. You need to show that you can make some money. You figured out how to generate some sales, and you need to feel like you've at least mastered a couple of the basic skills that you might need to become successful in this thing, or you've gone down that path to start mastering them. So I don't think there's ever going to be an ideal time or a perfect time. It's going to be different for everybody. But I think the most important thing is to really consider what it is you're trying to do, how fast you're trying to build it, and you can make that move at the right time, or maybe you don't want to make that move at all. And some people are comfortable staying in that space. They don't want to scale that big. They don't mind having both incomes, or maybe they get a partner who's doing more of the heavy lifting on the outside because they want to stay on the inside. So I think it's a little bit of there's no perfect, nice, buttoned up answer that I could give, like, this is the sign from God. When the donkey comes to, and you're riding your donkey and you get knocked off by the light. I don't know what to tell you. There's no exact time. Yeah. But I just think there's a way to do it responsibly. But if you're planning to do the entrepreneur route, at some point you're gonna have to just make that move. But just do it. Drink responsibly, jump responsibly.
Yeah.
You know,
Or drunk while drinking.
so I'm loving where this discussion is going, and so I think it was Dalan that mentioned freelancing. So for me, and I talk about it in my book, The Albino Marketer, my jump, and I still will consider myself a freelancer, though I've had other clients that would make me entrepreneur. And how I did it is, and I tell people, like, once you can replace your income consistently for the next couple of months, and you've had enough saved to take care of yourself and or your family for maybe like 3 to 6 months, then it's okay to take that plunge. Now, I look at it from a freelancing standpoint, and you can be doing two things at once. You can be freelancing and putting things in place to start your business. But hearing Javette, it never even crossed my mind. And when I heard him say, there comes a point when you can no longer balance your 9 to 5 or what you're doing in order to scale. You can no longer balance that. You have to let something go. And even though, like, it hit home for me, and I realized that he is right too. But again, so it's kind of like a merge of the two, because we're all kind of saying the same thing, and it's going to be different for each person. But you have to get uncomfortable.
My mother was an entrepreneur, and I grew up. If you know, we're Caribbean people. Nobody works harder than Caribbean people. They are, and we this is something that is cultural. We feel like we have to work. We have to. I think my next book is going to be relax. There is people. We're going to kill ourselves with work, and the way we can relax is by scale. Is by economies of scale. We have grown up in a society that tells you that you have to just work at breakneck speed, consume a lot of American TV and hustle, kill yourself. The fact is, we have families. We are from beautiful countries with amazing beaches, great mountains, rivers, and seas. Why we cannot consume ourselves with this? There's a term for it, the artisan trap, where you're this furniture maker. You make a chair, you sell the chair, you go back, you make another chair, you sell the chair, you make a chair. Do what the Swiss do: design the chair, figure out the different parts, ship it in a box. Find a guy in China, make all of these, go on a website. As Caribbean people, we need to change our mindset from this hustle, kill, and we don't have a chance to breathe, to think, to relax, to figure out, to create, to just wander away, to get bored. One of the things that I'm really pushing against, that look, we can operate at scale, we can grow massive businesses, but you can also sit on the beach on a Monday and eat a coconut and stop and talk to your neighbor. And you don't have to be like this constant race to a mountain and a place that don't even really exist, because you're already in paradise. You just need to figure out the ways of being able to enjoy the paradise that you're already living in.
Agreed. I want to point out the irony that Javette is saying all of this while freezing cold right now. But I respect what he's saying so much that I actually just pre-ordered his books. I'm looking forward to it. I just put in my order on Amazon. That just to show you that we're still friends. We're actually talking about the same things. There's a lot of Javette in me, and hopefully there's a lot of me and Javette. I don't know. We'll see. But I got the book, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I love it.
Yeah, man. Respect.
All right. So we have a lot of praise coming in. Yes, hustling is tiring. That's true. When you listen to people and you see people like Gary V, and it's all about hustle. And you have one of the guys that I like to listen to. Oh my God, E.T., the motivational speaker.
Preacher.
Yes, and he's like, I don't sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy. There are other people who want that is important for them, but for me personally, I don't want to be that guy.
I think there's seasons of it. Like, I think especially if you're scaling a business, I mean, let's be realistic. There's gonna be that, there's sprints. You know what I mean? There's gonna be that 3 months like, yo, we gotta get XYZ done. We got a product launch coming up, so We ain't sleeping 8 hours right now. But that's not the goal, to be in that kind of like in the exhaustion constantly. That's not where we're trying to be. That's not a goal.
Yeah. As you said, I am in the freezing cold. Like I've been here for the last 2 weeks working constantly. But I go home and I'm going to go to a health shop and get a fish. Probably on a Monday. Grab a beer and relax, or a coconut water and relax. And the fact is, if you're building anything, you have to spend hours on it. You have to obsess about it, constantly think about it. It has to germinate in your mind. So all of that is work, and you have to put in the work. But the thing that I see happen all the time is, and it's especially in a Caribbean context, you ever get a grill guy who does a grill in the Caribbean, and you're like, oh, this is so amazing work. But he puts in so much of his artistry, himself in it, or you order a piece of furniture or a painting, and they put so much of themselves in it. And the ability to kind of figure out how to move from that. There's one day when he's going to be tired. There's one day when he needs a day off. How do we build those systems in place? How do we then take that guy who's doing his painting, digitize those paintings that he has done, and then sell print on a website, so that when he's ready to rest, when he's ready to relax, he can have the ability to do so? How do we make cups and put his paintings on it? One of the clients that I met when I was here is a guy who literally is doing stonework in the mountains. He's just building stuff out of stones. And then he takes pictures of them and sells the pictures. The is his way of therapy. The scaling is when he takes the picture, puts that on his website, and he sells millions of it. So
I trust that the discussion excited you as much as it excited me. And I want to remind you of the books of these 3 presenters to go and get them. In fact, 4 presenters, because Raquel's book, The Albino Marketer, talks about the freelancing and how she left the 9 to 5 and went into the online space and found a way to thrive online, being legally blind, leaving the 9 to 5 space and finding a place to thrive online. So these 4 books are the 4 resources you need to get. Raquel's book, Raquel Newman, The Albino Marketer. No Boss Clients Only by Dalan Vanterpool. How to Build an Extraordinary Career and a Life of Freedom. Nerissa's book, Start, Grow, Thrive, Build a Business to Last, is so good that before I even finished reading Nerissa's book, I started strategizing about systems to scale, and I changed a couple of my programs, and I'm looking forward to employ more of that teaching, because how she wrote that book in the form of an unforgettable story of an aspiring entrepreneur who was able to build a business and scale it during a pandemic is just brilliant. And then Javette's book, From the Margins, really gives you the mindset that you need to understand that we as Caribbean people, we can do it. And it doesn't just give you the mindset, but it gives you the strategies and the systems. And his book too is fast becoming one of my favorite books. In the book are things that have been practically helping me in this season of my life. And I find myself going back to the book over and over. Dalan's book, Over Christmas, I just kept listening to that over and over. And just his angle of presentation was just amazing. So I would encourage you to get these books, and these would be the resources to win. When we come back next week, I am going to be talking about the Legacy Fest, because that is coming up on August 28th. I'll have some more news on that, but I'm excited about the Legacy Fest that's coming up. Okay, so if you got something out of this episode, remember to share it with a friend. And this is Ruth Taylor saying, ta for now, until next time.
I'm Tamara Francis, educator and editor. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share the podcast with your network. If you'd like to increase your impact and income with books, visit entrepreneursecrets.com for more resources including the books Pen It to Win It and Authorpreneur Secrets. Join the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy membership group for courses, coaching, and community support to write, publish, and win with books. Until next time, go pen it to win it.